Hi, I'm Dan Neer. In 1969, 5 young Englishmen released an album titled after their chosen name, Yes. 10 years and 11 albums later, Yes had forever changed the notion of what constituted rock and roll. And then,
after 10 years, we were all tired and exhausted, and that's why we actually split up for a while.
singer-songwriter and co-founder John Anderson.
And 3 years later, we got together again with me and Chris. Steve wasn't with the band, it was a new guy, Trevor Rabin. So we did 90125, and you thought, okay, let's reinvent the band, and that didn't happen. It was a sort of a lot of political energy going on through the 80s. So when the 90s came, we just wanted to survive the 90s because everything was changing so fast. So by the time you got into, I think it was 4 years ago, me and Chris sat down and said, are we going to work together? Because we've gone through so many difficult times together. Do we want to work together still? And we really realized we still love each other as people, and we still love making music. So we decided, let's try and keep the band going into the year 2000.
Well, here we are in the year 2000, and guess what? So is Yes, along with their latest CD, The Ladder. Bassist, songwriter, and co-founder Chris Squire.
What we've acquired too through the different decades and different formulas of Yes is that we've also learned to be flexible, and we've come to embrace that as a positive part. That kept it interesting for us as well, I think, rather than just sticking to one narrow kind of format our whole career. And I think that's probably why we're still here.
Welcome to part 1 of the Jones Radio Network's Yes, Up Close.
What you gonna do when the lightning strikes and hits you?
Yes, with Lightning Strikes from The Ladder. Once again, here's Chris Squire.
We had decided in 97 that we wanted to have a pretty work-intensive period for the band, going through, like we started off with the Open Your Eyes album and tour, and we haven't really stopped ever since then. So we ended up in Vancouver recording the album with Bruce Fairbairn, and that was where his studio was.
Bruce Fairbairn is the legendary producer who worked with such notables as Aerosmith, the Cranberries, and Bon Jovi.
And so we rehearsed the month of November up till before Christmas, and we just really threw out everyone's best ideas, and the cream rose to the surface, and Bruce came down, he refereed a bit, so yeah, we should work on that one, and then some odd things happened. We just became very free about what we were doing, and we found ourselves playing a kind of Afro-Caribbean kind of grooves and stuff like that, which hasn't really been Yes's signature, but we felt very comfortable doing it, and it wasn't like a plan, it just sort of went in that direction. But it all came out very easily, and we enjoyed making the album together a lot.
Yeah,
and Bruce helped a lot with that situation. It's sad that he passed away at the end of the album, unfortunately. But he really had been great for us up until then.
Inside my heart.
Homeworld, The Ladder from The Ladder.
That's so beautiful with just the piano there like that. The next song, It'll Be a Good Day, The River. I mean, this to me it's all up here, as to whether you're going to have that good day or not. Do you know?
I was very happy about the song. It stemmed from Igor's very simple pa 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 pa, and he was doing these chords that me and Billy have been working on. And then I started writing the song and thought, okay, this is a very simple idea, and I couldn't figure out what the lyrics were meaning. I was sketching out lyrics, and the guy who runs out and gets lunch for everybody walked in and said, "It's going to be a good day today." And I said, "That's it. It is a good day." and "It'll Be a Good Day" became the reference.
Yeah.
So that at every end of each verse, I could actually get to that point and say, "It'll be a good day."
Golden forest, golden lake, sanctuary, state of grace. I will find reason, a place to be.
From Yes's latest CD, The Ladder, that was It Will Be a Good Day, The River. Coming up,
You know, just on very early days of Yes, and we just like got together and hadn't even made an album yet.
Yes Up Close takes you back to the swingin' London of the late 1960s. Stay with us.
Yeah, baby!
According to scientists who study this stuff, people blink their eyes 20,000 times a day. So if you're not
$25 minimum purchase. That's ehobbies.com.
Ah, yes, London in the swinging 60s. Dolly Birds, Bobby's, Carnaby Street, and Sgt. Pepper were all household names. John Anderson, Peter Banks, Tony Kaye, Chris Squire, and Bill Bruford were not. But that was about to change. Here's Tony.
I guess how it really started was John met Chris, and then Chris knew me, and we both frequented the same bar on Wardour Street, you know. And the concept was born in the Shas Club, I think, on Wardour Street. And eventually, you know, after rehearsing, we went to the Marquee.
The band's big break came when Sly Stone, notorious for missing gigs, did just that. Chris Squire.
We just like got together and hadn't even made an album yet. And we were living in Kensington, where this club called Blazes was, and of course Sly had already started his tradition of not turning up, but for some reason or other they were convinced he was coming that night. No, he didn't. And so the club manager completely freaked, but you know, a friend of ours who was at the club, Sly, said, well, the only thing I know you can do is there's this band living in the next street, and I know they've got their van with all their equipment in. Maybe you should put them on. So that, yeah, we went down and played to this packed club, and we were pretty good that night. And people dug it, and the guy who managed the club was so sort of relieved, I think, that he decided to manage us, which was kind of a good thing for the time. As soon as he started managing us, we almost became a resident support act at the Royal Albert Hall. In the course of like 2 months, we played like about 5 shows at the Royal Albert Hall, you know, supporting like the Cream's farewell concert and Janis Joplin and you know, various other, a couple of charity things. It almost became like we were the resident support band of the place where we never thought we'd ever be.
Yours is No Disgrace, all 9 minutes and 20 seconds of it, from the Yes album in 1971.
The main reason that the Yes album was very successful was because it was a very, very warm album. And it had kind of suggestions of the beginning of high tech, as in Yours is No Disgrace.
That was Chris Squire. We'll hear more from him, John Anderson, and Rick Wakeman when Up Close returns. Please contact us if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments regarding Up Close. We'd love to hear from you. Our address is upclose@jonesradio.com. We'll be right back. Up Close is brought to you by the U.S. Army. Be all you can be.
There are many good reasons to consider the Army, and now there's one more. Because right now, the Army is offering the biggest enlistment bonus ever, as much as $20,000, plus up to $50,000 for college.
I'm Dan Neer, back with part 1 of the Jones Radio Network's Yes Up Close. Chris Squire.
There was a look to the sound of the band that was different from normal, okay, which, you know, you always have to have in order to sort of like, penetrate any kind of existing market or whatever, provided you get that far. And of course, because we a very solid playing band, we did manage to break through. And but the main reason that the Yes album was very successful was because it was a very, very warm album. And it had kind of suggestions of the beginning of high tech, as in Yours Is No Disgrace, where we were using, one of the very first Moog synthesizers.
Another of the cuts on the album was called I've Seen All Good People, which consisted of two pieces: Your Move, written by John Anderson, and Chris Squire's All Good People. Here's John.
I think at the time I was very into the idea that life is a game. I actually had that whole series of thoughts about the more you, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. I mean, Springsteen put it perfectly: 2 steps, 3
One
steps,
step up, 2 steps back.
2 steps back.
Yeah.
He seemed to be going through this amazing process of trying to go too fast, and then you got to move on back to square, as I would put it. And then relate it to a game. And chess was the only game that I thought about at the time, but I wasn't concentrating too much on the idea. But it was a good metaphor.
I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied I'm on my way. I've seen good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied
I've Seen All Good People. Now don't go away. Yes discovers just how fragile life can be next on Part 1 of the Jones Radio Network's Up Close.
30 million people already know.
By 15% or more without wielding a hatchet. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
And Rick Wakeman joined the group. So it was a very exciting musical period because he was a guy who could play anything classic. It was fantastic. So he had to put that on the record and then on stage. And that's when we started to breathe more sort of musical air into the band. I think it was a great time.
Rick Wakeman.
I mean, the mixing sessions on the old albums were hilarious, really, because it was as many fingers and hands on faders as humanly possible. Used to end up with whoever was engineering or there compressing everything to death, because that was the only way you could ever get things through. And I always felt that Yes made some fantastic music, and some of the mixes were some of the best, but the quality was so compressed because of it suffered from our lack of being able to delegate.
From 1971's Fragile, that was long-distance runaround, The Fish. Next time on Part 2 of Yes Up Close.
I suppose I was partially responsible, especially with Roundabout, bringing the sort of the bass guitar role into more of a kind of an important thing that happened completely by accident, actually.
Part 1 of Yes Up Close was produced in New York by the Jones Radio Network, a division of Jones International Networks. The producers are David Bales and me, Dan Neer. The executive producers are Ron Hartenbaum and Gary Schoenfeld. Up Close is distributed on compact disc and copyrighted 2000. All rights reserved. No portion may be used without the written permission of the producers. The producers would also like to hear any comments you have about this program. So please drop us a line at upclose@jonesradio.com. Join us next time on this station as we present Part 2 of Yes Up Close. Don't miss it. Hi, I'm Dan Neer, and this is John Anderson of Yes.
We really realized we still love each other as people, and we still love making music. So we decided, let's try and keep the band going into the year 2000.
Well, here we are in the year 2000, and guess what? So is Yes, along with their latest CD, The Ladder. Join us on the Jones Radio Network for Part 1 of Yes Up Close.